Hello and welcome back to the A to Z of Football podcast. You are your hosts. I'm Alex the A. I'm with Zach the,
Zeds.
and we are very, very excited to be back. More because Premier League football has been back. We've been watching Premier League football, listening to Premier League football, checking up scores of Premier League football. It feels abnormal. It feels like we shouldn't be doing it. And yeah, we both had a fun watching that. Obviously, today's podcast is going to be largely based around that. But Zach, in detail, well, not in too much detail, obviously, no spoilers. What are we going to be talking about today?
Okay, so obviously, like you beautifully said in your intro, Alex,
Thank you very much.
we have really enjoyed watching Premier League football back for the first week. This past week, it's felt normal. This has been the first week in which a little bit of normality has been added back to our sporting lives. We're going to have a little review, I suppose, if you want to call it that, on our initial thoughts on how this past week of football has gone, what has worked well, what hasn't maybe worked so well, what games we've enjoyed, going through all the scores, and picking out a game that we were excited to see and impressed to see, a game we were disappointed in. We're also going to talk a little bit about Arsenal, but not too much. As a Spurs fan, I'm not going to dwell into it. We're going to talk a little bit about Arsenal. They haven't had the best this week, as we'll go on to talk about. And of course, you can expect us to go through the fixtures for the remainder of June as we come towards the end of this month, the last 14 games, and predictions on what those scores may be and what that may mean for the Premier League table.
What a packed show!
What a packed show!
Brilliant, brilliant show. Perfect. That leads us on very nicely. We were just talking before, and I just want to quickly talk a little bit about the Black Lives Matter movement that the Premier League has done a load of great work in over the first week. You know, with advertisements in between games, and obviously having Black Lives Matter on the back of the shirts and taking a knee, etc. It's all been fantastic. I just want to sort of quickly say before we get into anything. Obviously, I'm a Burnley fan, and I watched the Man City Burnley game yesterday, and I was just disgusted, felt sick, ashamed that some of our fans, as I'm sure all of you have seen by now, some of our fans or one of our fans, who I'm not sure how many, decided it was appropriate or necessary to fly a White Lives Matter Burnley plane over the Etihad. I think it just proves why all these protests and why this movement is so important at the moment. There are still some people that have this, diseased mindset that, it's too much to get into. But obviously, let's just get the negatives out of the way early. And as a Burnley fan, I just want to sort of say that we're not all like that, and that is only such a minute proportion of fans. I'm sure every club probably has a fan base like that.
I think it's fair to say that it is a minute of people, but I think the ultimate aim is that it should be no people, and we should call out these acts when we see them. They are wrong and disgusting, and every single person should be able to see that and should be able to condemn it as it should be in every single way. I've been impressed by what the Premier League has done, and I hope they keep going. And I'm being impressed by what a lot of people have done. And racism has no place on this podcast, in any life, anywhere, any country, anywhere. This podcast especially.
There we go.
So
okay.
we are fully in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and
not in support of
and have been completely disgusted, as much of the nation have, with the actions of last night in the Burnley match. But let's not focus on it anymore. That was the point we had to point out, because it has to be called out when it's seen. But we're going to move on, Alex. Please, we have had Premier League football back for a whole week now. How have you felt? What was your initial thoughts?
So look, we knew coming into it, similar to the Bundesliga matches, we knew coming into it it'd be different. But obviously, this means so much more to us because we're watching the teams that we followed all our lives, and it was, look, obviously a tiny bit weird with no fans and the delay and the 9 substitutions, and obviously how the games have gone, but it just was so lovely to feel like we are as a nation. It's such a weird thing to call football like getting back into a routine, but it was. It almost felt like a certain portion of normality was returning to our lives. Like usually in our everyday weeks, you look forward to that football day on Saturday. Obviously, it's not going to be every Saturday this time, but just having games that you look forward to and you can structure your week around. And oh, I'm watching the match. It just felt so nice to say to people, oh, sorry, no, I'm watching the match then, or let's talk after the match or something.
I couldn't agree
Oh,
more.
it was
Honestly,
so nice.
honestly, it's been a joy to be able to listen to football matches, watch football matches in a whatever capacity. It's just been nice. Like we said, it's been really, really,
Yeah.
really good to have football back on lights and to be every day as well. They're really piling up the games, giving us that little flavour of football we've been missing for months now, and it's been really lovely. I was quite surprised. Was a nice surprise actually. Was when I watched which game did I watch first? Tottenham game, I imagine it was, and they had the background fan noise that they've got because obviously the stadiums are empty at the moment. But I'm watching it and going, why is there noise? What's going on? And then obviously I clocked it, and it's a nice addition. It
It
doesn't
is.
it doesn't it doesn't feel that weird. If it was without it there, it would feel more odd. But the fact they put it in makes it easier to watch the football and not even take notice of the fact there's no crowd. So
I
these little things like that have been really really good to see that
I was
they've
initially
implemented.
really skeptical about that as well. I was
Mm.
initially so really dubbing like Sky Sports is dubbing crowd noises, or whoever's dubbing crowd noises over. That's just it feels like it can't like just we accept it for what it is. But actually, you're right. It sort of just it does take your mind off the fact there are no fans, and then it's only sort of once like you just distance yourself, and then so once you see like the great banners they put up on the side, you remember there aren't fans, but it does actually add to the experience for sure. Like,
Well, my family have got a sort of joke going now that like there's like a DJ that like clicks the sounds every time something happens. So so if the DJ say if it's an Arsenal Man City game, the DJ's a Man City game, every time Arsenal fouls him, he just keeps clicking the boo button over and over again or something like that. And I love that idea that there's this little guy going like this to
oh,
all the things.
that'd
Um,
make it all the more fun, wouldn't
that,
it?
that
It
would
would.
make
It
it
would.
all the more fun. Let's quickly go through
Oh
the
dear.
score. Let's quickly go
Yeah.
through the results of the past few games. So last week we talked from the very first game, Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, all the way down to yesterday's game of Man City versus Burnley. I'll quickly run through the results of that now. Alex, we can then talk about your standout game and a game that maybe disappointed you, maybe. Okay, so
Yeah.
Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, that finished 0-0. Man City versus Arsenal, that finished 3-0. Norwich versus Southampton finished 3-0 to Southampton. Tottenham Man United 1-0. Leicester Watford was 1-0. Brighton Arsenal. Brighton with that surprise victory of 2-1. West Ham Wolves comfortably winning that 2-0. Bournemouth Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace walking all over them again 2-0. Newcastle Sheffield United. This shocked me. Newcastle winning 3-0. And Aston Villa Chelsea. Chelsea come from behind to win 2-1. Everton, Liverpool 0-0, and Man City, Burnley. I'm afraid to say, Alex, was 5-0 to Manchester City. Alex, out of those games, out of the results, which game surprised you? Which game did you enjoy watching? Was a shock
You know.
result, let's say.
Well, I'll go for two. I'll go for two. In terms of different, like in terms of shock result and result, I was really surprised to see. It's not actually going to be. I mean, we'll talk about Arsenal a bit later. It's not actually the Arsenal Brighton game because I saw it coming. To be fair, it's actually, as you said, the Sheffield United Newcastle match,
Mm,
and that was just Sheffield United have not come out of this lockdown well from what we've seen so far.
mm,
Obviously, like the Aston Villa game, yes, there was that goal line decision system that it's happened once in I think 9,000 goals. Hawkeye said,
mm,
and yes, obviously that should have been a goal, but throughout that match they didn't play well. They didn't deserve to win, really. Obviously, yeah.
mhm,
I mean, you could argue both sides of that argument, but as a terms of if you looked at the play from both teams, it was a fair result to be 0-0, and you can't argue that Newcastle deserved to beat Sheffield United. Newcastle were great; they had a lot of good chances. I mean, Sheffield United, obviously, I think Egan got sent off with 2 yellows.
Mm.
Sheffield, they just didn't look up to it. Henderson had a poor game. They let Joel Linton score. I mean, if that doesn't tell you
I like the
how
way you worded that as they let him score. Like he hasn't scored for
well,
ages. We'll let him have one.
we'll let him have one. I mean, they're 2-0 down anyway. No, but like
Yeah.
obviously it's good for Newcastle because I mean they're obviously a good team to have in the Prem, and who knows what's going to happen with this takeover. But they're going to definitely be safe now. But I'm just a little bit concerned for Sheffield United that this because I think they're a team that really feeds off atmosphere. They love it. Like they just love even when they're away. I think they embrace the fact that people are getting on their backs and they use that to their advantage. But with this, for both games back so far, they just don't seem to have the energy or determination so far. But I may be proved wrong in the coming weeks. You never know. And my most enjoyable one was actually the Tottenham Man United game. I'm sure for you it might not be when you're watching your own team. It's rarely enjoyable. Let's put it that way
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're always nervous. But I managed to watch it. It was a really entertaining match. Both teams had great chances, you know, but there was like lot of controversy, VAR decisions, and as a viewer, and I think it was a fair result. Now, like I think
Yeah.
actually
I
came
agree.
to a fair result.
I agree.
As a viewer, it was really entertaining to watch. I thought Bergman was fantastic.
Mhm.
And I thought Pogba when he came on was class.
Mhm.
I think that's for Man United in these last 8 games. Pogba and Fernandes in the middle could be huge for them.
They're deadly. They look deadly together.
They
Honestly.
looked brilliant. The way Pogba managed to win that penalty was a joke. Like no defender could deal with that. And so yeah, so that was as a as a fan of football, and obviously it made the fact that there was a lot on the line as well. It was two big teams, and that
Yeah.
result doesn't necessarily count Tottenham out, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's
Yeah.
now just a
No.
two-horse race of fourth. It keeps things in
I thought it
balance.
was fair. I thought it was fair. Absolutely.
So go on then,
You talk
Zach.
about
What about
you,
you?
talked about the Newcastle game. I thought I agree with you on that. I thought Newcastle played incredibly well. Steve Bruce rightly got the credit for that he should. Hopefully they can push on it and keep that sort of form going to next season with the new owners potentially and stuff. And Steve Bruce looks like he's starting to put his mark on there and actually going, you know what, you're probably better off keeping me, which is interesting conversation. We won't get into that now. But one game that did impressed me was Norwich versus Southampton. Southampton did very well that
Yeah.
game. Now, I know they're playing Norwich, and Norwich are obviously really struggling at the moment, but Southampton really came out guns firing. I managed to watch the highlights of that, and I know it's obviously highlights, but seeing the way they were attacking the lineup with the attacking play and Danny Ings getting there and Redmond
Danny Ings.
running around. Yeah, they were really, really, really impressive. I was impressed by Southampton, and the great thing is that this just shows how tight the Premier League table is this season. Southampton are now in 14th spot with 37 points. They are 9 points behind Manchester United, who are in 5th.
It's crazy,
Southampton,
isn't it? Yeah, it's
Southampton are
crazy.
still in the European shout, which is mental, but
In 14th.
it could potentially happen
I agree. I
in
agree.
from yeah, it's they played very, very well. Obviously, struggling Norwich side. Norwich look like they're down and out for the count, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was very impressed with how Southampton came out, and I think when they play Arsenal this week, which we'll talk about, it could be interesting. What about a disappointing game for you, Alex? Because
I
obviously
mean,
the Burnley game is going to be a tricky one for you to swallow. But any other game that sort of stands out to you there?
yeah, well, obviously, we very optimistically predicted a cheeky 1-0 away win in the last
Yeah.
podcast for Burnley in that one. That didn't quite come into
No.
fruition, unfortunately. But yeah, that's not the game we'll talk about. I mean, I think we're probably going to go for the same one here. Everton Liverpool, the
Oh yeah.
Merseyside derby. It
Mhm.
was just dull.
Yeah.
It was just dull. Like I was watching it, and you could tell both sides had a really lengthy break. Neither, I mean, without Robertson, like going down that left side, Milner just doesn't do that job, and that
No.
doesn't fit with how Liverpool play. you could tell Everton were really sort of okay with a point. Possibly could have nicked it at the end with that one. There was only that one real chance in the whole game. It was just a bit for a Merseyside derby. The whole like passions flair, like fans. Oh, I suppose obviously the fans not being in there is a big part of it. Something like a Merseyside derby, but just really didn't live up to expectations, did it? Especially with so much riding on it for possible European hopes for Everton, and obviously title.
I completely agree. I watched that game. That, in fact, a little thing for the podcast. That Premier League game is the most watched Premier League game ever. It had 5.5 million viewers, and it bored us all to tears. So
it wasn't the best advert for Premier League.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the best advert. I thought Everton did okay. I although it was boring, I thought Everton were the stronger side. I thought I think was it Davison that he got a goal at the end. I thought that was a good chance. Unfortunately, just outside the post. They definitely deserved to win that game above. I thought Liverpool were lackluster. They were lethargic. They were sort of bumbling around going, yeah, we've already won the league. Let's just take our time about it. Let's not worry about it. Let's just nick a 0-0 and move on. I didn't see a Liverpool side that we've seen throughout the rest of this season who were dominant, attacking, vicious in the air.
Ruthless.
I did not see that with this Liverpool side. This Liverpool side looked like it was done, and they were just sort of there for the pay packet. And very, very disappointing, especially being one of the bigger free to air games that they're showing on the Premier League. It was a big letdown. But I think both teams would be happy with the point. More Liverpool than Everton, but I wasn't thrilled by it at all.
Just want to quickly say, people who are watching, if you just want to go back and watch the last podcast and just look at my prediction for that one, then thank me later. I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't predict 0-0, but I said it would be a very scrappy game and it would be a draw. What happened? It was a very scrappy game and it was a draw. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, my Super 6
I said 2-2. No, my Super 6. It did all right, but it didn't do that great. It didn't do that great.
I'm going to win it this week. I'm going to win it this week for sure.
Oh yeah, well, not if I do, but then you have to split the money. Anyway,
I'll take it.
Let's now that we've sort of picked those games out, I think it's fair to say that our disappointing team of the week and the letdown team of the week is Arsenal, isn't it? What's going wrong with Arsenal?
Oh dear. So let's take it back to the first game. Obviously, I felt bad for them. I felt bad for Arteta in a way because obviously he was. I mean, two season-ending injuries in the first 20 minutes is never helpful, is it? Firstly, there's the psychological aspect of, these players going to be okay? Like, what's going to happen to them? And obviously, being so early in the game, you have to shuffle things around. You have to change your playing style. Like having Granit Xhaka, as controversial and awful as he can sometimes be, he does, when he is in that Arsenal team, they sort of play around him in the fact that he gets the balls in very deep, moves forward, plays them. And then that all sort of changed. I think they subbed with it Guendouzi on, who's a very different player. He's just really energetic and likes to run around. I'm sure I'll talk about him in a second as well. I felt sorry because David Luiz was just one of the worst defensive performances I have ever seen in my life. Like, it was just. I played right back for Shire Colts under 13s. I would have done a better job than him back then. Trust, it was awful. It was shocking. So there was that. But what I didn't understand was Arteta's team choice for that. Yeah. The front line, he had Willock, Nketiah, Saka playing as a left winger, and Aubameyang. Leaving Ozil didn't even travel. I think that's a big point to play, and they said it was tactical. There's obviously something going on there.
I think Ozil's been an issue that's going back seasons now. I agree. It's almost like he's just there to get paid. He doesn't even do his job anymore. I don't think he respects the position he's got. I don't think the club really respect him for his attitudes in that sense. I don't think he gives 110%, which you should all the time. And although we view him as a class player, I think that has really scuppered his legacy, and that's why he doesn't play anymore. Because when Ozil plays for Arsenal, I'm shocked, which it shouldn't be because he's supposed to be one of their best players.
Yeah. I can't get my head around it. Obviously, there's something else because there is no way you can say it's tactical, leaving arguably your best technical player and not making a 20-man squad. That just doesn't happen. Like you at least bring him to go on the subs bench, and he just wasn't there. But anyway, that's beside the point. I just felt the team selection from Arteta just didn't really. I just didn't understand it because as Man City defenders, you're looking at that and saying, right, so they've got Aubameyang, like that's pretty much it. And they'd never I mean, yes, they had an okay first 20 minutes, but I think Arsenal fans are hyping it up way too much. It was just Man City hadn't got into their groove yet, and as soon as they did, we saw what happened. So obviously there was that game which everyone saw Arsenal were poor in, but obviously you can hone it in a lot on David Luiz. Like,
I think you can kind of say, well, it was against Man City. Man City are a strong side. They're tactically reinforced all the time. So I think in that sense, Arsenal were never really going to win that game realistically. No. So you can kind of let them off. The big crux comes from the Brighton game. We know Arsenal have a job to do when Brighton have done the double over them this season.
It really, if that isn't a warning sign for Arteta, for the Arsenal fans, then I don't know what is. Not even just the fact that Brighton done the double, just that game epitomises what Arsenal have been the last 4 or 5 years. Okay, they have some good players up front that can, on their day, work together and score 3 goals. That's becoming much too few and far between. And then there's someone like Pepe who hasn't had the greatest of seasons. I think he will turn out to be a good player, but he scored a great goal. And you're against a team fighting for relegation. You're arguably one of the best football playing sides in the league. And then you go with 20 minutes left, lose the game 2-1. It's criminal, man. It is criminal. Not in a million years could you imagine Liverpool doing this, City doing that. They get the goal, they manage the game well. They either get the second on the break or however, or they sit and they make sure they defend properly. And Arsenal have an incapability of doing that. Furthermore, as well, the way they handled Mope was rank. Mope, look, he has every right to go for that ball. It was very unfortunate what happened. Maybe he could have tried to jump out of the way, but you have to, as a striker, you have to go for every ball.
He did apologise for that afterwards of the attack on Leno. It wasn't anything vicious from Mope.
It wasn't anything intentional, malicious. There was nothing behind it that warranted abuse. I mean, obviously, I thought the way Guendouzi went about, he needs to learn a lesson or two, doesn't he? He's just.
I shared on my social media tonight. Mope's interview at the end.
Response at the end.
Bit of humility. But I think the thing with Arsenal is bigger than just this Brighton game. The Brighton game's highlighted it quite definitely. But if you look at the table, they have a goal difference of 0, which is awful for what is considered a top side team, a top six
club having a 0 goal difference.
The only teams who have less wins than them this season are in the relegation battle. Southampton, Newcastle, Everton, and Burnley and Crystal Palace all have more wins than Arsenal this season. That says it all, doesn't it?
Just think if you said that 10 years ago, not even 15 years ago, like when they were in the prime, but even 10, even 5 years ago, people would laugh at you. They said, you've got that wrong. Surely there must be some mistake. But it's what you expect of them, especially when they're away. Like, talk about away form. They've only won 2 games away all season.
It's bad.
Meant to be a top 6 club.
It's bad.
Honestly, I was still.
It has to start. It has to start at the top. That's what I think.
Yeah.
It has to start.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it. it's just you're right. It's from the whole club down. Arteta has a massive job in his hands. Everyone was getting excited they haven't lost the Premier League game in 2020. They had no real competition. Yeah, they had the good draw away at Chelsea, but that was with a Chelsea team that really weren't up to par that day. Like, it's a huge job. And I was saying to my dad, which obviously, and I'm sure a lot of fans agree, if you're a team in dire need of a win in the relegation zone or whatever, there aren't many better games you can have than Arsenal at home. Realistically, you're like, if you think I'm a burnt out, if we had Arsenal at home now, I'd take that over playing, Everton or Crystal Palace or Southampton right now. I would take Arsenal because I know they're a soft touch. I know they don't currently have that mental stability that know that they can close out games. And
I think there's
I wish Arsenal the best. I do
as well.
but
I think there's a tactical issue as well because Arteta coming in, and I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt because he hasn't been there that long, but he's had this period of break to sort of push his tactics, push his ideas in place. He's putting Aubameyang out on the wing. We know that Aubameyang is a goal scorer. He was in my team of the season on the very first podcast. We know that he's capable of creating goals. So why is he not in that number 9, number 10 position? Why are you pushing him out to the wing? He's not a winger. He's not. And there's something seriously wrong with the tactics or the way this is going for that to be the case. If you need to win games, if you need to prove that you are a top side, you need to apply your best player and get him goal scoring.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. Arsenal owners don't have faith in Arsenal. Arsenal fans don't have faith in Arsenal. Arsenal players don't even have faith in Arsenal anymore. And the coach is trying to create faith for Arsenal, but he can't because none of the top 3 have faith in Arsenal to begin with. And that is the crux of the issue. How you fix that, I don't know. There's many things you could try and do. Throwing money at it is not the way to do it. But Arsenal, I think, have got a long period now where they are not going to be in European football. They're not going to be in Champions League football. They're not going to be fighting for leagues or cups or anything. They really need to take a step back and rebuild. They need to rebuild from the bottom up.
I agree. And weirdly, I think it'll be best that I think in the long run, at the moment, obviously no Arsenal fans will appreciate me saying this, but in the long run, I actually think not getting European football this season in any aspect, because I actually don't think they're even going to get Europa League, will actually benefit them. Next season, they don't have to worry about any European football. They don't have to worry about Thursday night, etc. So I think that could benefit them. I think the thing is, I do like the path they're going down with Arteta, a young manager who's clearly promoting youth in the squad and trying to get that going. Obviously, he hasn't even had a transfer window yet to sort. Well, he's had the January one, but he hasn't had a good summer where he can try and invest in players that he wants. Because it reminds me a lot of the United situation. Getting Ollie in, trying to get them back to where they are, but knowing it's going to be a long road. I think Arsenal fans have to accept that, and if they do, then they can start to move forward. But it's almost bordering on embarrassing for Arsenal fans because it's just been the same story. It's been the same story. When was the last time? I mean, any Arsenal fans, if you're listening, I'd be interested to know. When was the last time you had a defence that you were so confident in to close the game out or to?
It must have been like 06, right, or something like that.
Well,
05,
that's what I'm saying.
06.
All your other rivals in the past 10 years, all the other top 5, let's say, in the past 10 years, have had a defence at some point where you're certain that they can hold games out. Tottenham 3-4 years ago when they had Alderweireld, Vertonghen, who was left back for you back then? Was it Rose who was playing well at the time?
Rose. Yeah,
can't remember. Rose. And then we're just going back to obviously Chelsea when they ironically had David Luiz and Azpilicueta. There was that period in 2015 where they were doing well. And obviously Liverpool now, we know how great they are, etc. But I can't remember watching an Arsenal defence ever because in my lifetime I've obviously watched them for the last 10 years in memory. I can't remember ever being confident that they're going to close out a game,
No.
which is sad for a top 16 at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
I
So anyway,
think
sorry,
that
we've talked enough about Arsenal.
they have a really big rebuild on their hands, and I think they are going to be a mid-table team for a few seasons to come now. Honestly, do. Anyway, that is some of the things we've taken away from the past week of the Premier League. We're moving into week 2 now, Alex. We're already in week 2. It's going to fly by. 14 games to go. 14 games to go through this week. Starting off with games that are happening today. Leicester versus Brighton is your first fixture. How are you feeling about that one?
Well, it's actually happening right now, and it's 0-0. So I predict after 15 minutes, Brighton-Leicester is going to be 0-0. So just watch this space, guys. That is a solid prediction.
We'll be able to break that prediction while we're recording because someone will score. Right.
Yeah. Okay. On a serious note, how did Leicester do in the first? Oh yes, they drew to Watford away, which was a weird game. Probably deserved to win. Leicester. They had a lot of good chances, but ultimately, if you don't put them away, obviously, then you can't really. You only have yourself to blame. Did you see Chilwell's goal, by the way?
Both goals in that game were
and Dawson, a
centre
back doing a little scissor kick in the box. Unbelievable scene. That's why we love the Premier League, people.
Love it.
It is going to be so obviously Brighton had that win against Arsenal. As I say, I don't think Brighton should really look too much into that. Apologies. And Leicester had a 1-1, but probably deserved to win. Leicester at home, I'm gonna say they're gonna end up winning this one 2-0. A bit of a boring prediction, but I just think they're not gonna keep Vardy out for another game. And Brighton, and in hindsight as well, we should say that Brighton. I mean, Arsenal did dominate the game against Brighton. It's not like Brighton deserved to win. So but obviously it's just Arsenal a soft touch. So I'm saying 2-0.
Yeah, I definitely think a Leicester win is no doubt today. Leicester game against Watford, obviously a side which are fighting for relegation, so that was always going to be a sort of scrappy game, dog eat dog sort of fixture. Leicester are a strong side though. They're comfortably, well, actually, to be fair, I said they're comfortably in third place. Chelsea are sneaking up behind them slowly.
Sneaking up behind them a little bit, aren't they?
Sneaking up behind. So they've still got everything to fight for, Leicester. So they will be up for this game, obviously back. Was their first game at home? I don't remember. Might have been. No, it wasn't. This is their first game back at King Power Stadium.
Yeah.
So obviously no fans and stuff, but obviously still a home stadium. So it may have a little bit of a impact.
They do.
I think they'll go into their strong. Chilwell looks amazing. Obviously that goal was incredible. I definitely rate him though. Coming up that back position, very good. Obviously Vardy, I think you're right, will play a role in this game and sort of add a little more flair to it. Brighton, I don't think they can really come into this game. I mean, they will have a boost of confidence, obviously beating Arsenal, who are considered a big team. So that may help them sort of play that sort of sit back defensive role and try and maybe snatch a late winner again. But I think Arsenal, they have the pace. They have Leicester have the pace, have the experience, and I think that they might.
Can I just butt in quickly?
Go.
Whilst we've been talking just then, Brighton have had a penalty saved.
Oh
wow! They've had so Schmeichel has just saved a penalty given by VAR, and it is still currently 0-0. But Brighton are all over them apparently. 4 shots to Leicester's none. Right, well, maybe we might be a bit led on this, but we can't go back on it now. We've said.
I'm going Leicester 1-0. Leicester 1-0 win.
Leicester 1-0, and I'm going 2-0. Okay, let's move on to. I'll let you take the lead on this one. The beloved Spurs against West Ham.
So I saw something which fills me with a bit of confidence. Obviously, Mourinho likes to talk the talk anyway, but he says everyone's back. I've got all my options, attacking options. I'm feeling very positive, and that makes me feel positive as well. We can really come out the gates and we can put West Ham to the sword today, and I think we will. I think we'll come out And obviously, people complain that Mourinho's too defensive and stuff, but West Ham are weak. They were weak against Wolves.
Against
I
Wolves,
thought
yeah.
they sort of held Wolves for a little while, but Wolves eventually broke them down, and Wolves are a strong side, so definitely deserve the win that they got. West Ham, they look like they're struggling. They look like they haven't got the legs. I think Tottenham will come out raring to go, and we will win. We will win quite comfortably. I think I'm saying a 3-0 win.
3-0, yeah, it was interesting.
I think we'll combine really well up front. I think Kane may play a bit more of a deeper number 10 role today, and then allow Bergwijn and Mora maybe, or Dele to sort of infiltrate those sides and sort of take the win. So yeah, I think we'll do well today. I'm confident.
Interesting. Yeah, I think watching the United game, it was clear Mourinho's sort of how he likes to play. It's obviously a very typical Mourinho style, but you can't argue with it. It's worked so well over the years. In the first half, I thought you probably edged it in terms of chances and how you move the ball around. I think Bergwijn's been a fantastic signing so far.
Yeah,
he looks brilliant. The way he took that goal,
absolutely.
arguably, obviously, poor goalkeeper from De Gea, but he took it beautifully. Like the speed he had. Then obviously in the second half, I think because you've had the 1-0 lead, obviously that might have been playing in your mind a little bit. Maybe could have gone for try to push up for the second a bit more, but ultimately United had a good second half. I agree. I think West Ham will put up a bit more of a fight because they know this game means a bit more to their fans. Obviously, I know that again on the stadium, but it might mean a bit more. They did look rubbish against Wolves. They really did. Like Wolves just when they had to turn it on, they did, and West Ham couldn't cope with it.
I have to add to that quickly, Alex. I think you'll be right that West Ham will come out with a little bit more fierce power in them today, simply because they are fighting for survival, and this is a London derby, which is always going to add a bit of flair to it. Another thing that worries me is Tottenham's defense. They still look quite scared when the ball's near them.
Shaky,
They're still a little bit shaky. Better than they were, but still a little bit shaky. But I think, like I said earlier, I think we'll have the legs and the sort of attacking power to really outdo them, and 3-0. So sorry, Alex, you finish your prediction.
I was just going to say, I think you're going to go 2-0 up. I think West Ham might grab a cheeky goal through Lanzini or Haller or something, but yeah, I'm going to go 2-1, but a convincing performance overall.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Man United, Sheffield United is the next game.
The Battle of the Uniteds.
Battle of the Uniteds. Sheffield United have been poor, haven't they? I mean, we talked a little bit about it at the start, but they have been poor. Man United looked pretty solid in that Tottenham game. I think they sort of warmed up nicely. And I think Man United obviously back at Old Trafford as well. So it definitely Sheffield United maybe puts the sword a little, maybe be undone a little bit more than we've seen them be outdone this season. Sheffield United obviously had a good season in terms of results and points. So it might be interesting to see how they cope with a strong Man United side.
I think if they start, which I assume they will, if they start with Pogba and Fernandes in the middle, that they did look like they combined really, really well. Obviously, it was only like half an hour when Pogba obviously really wanted to impress. So it may not be the best sort of telling of how it goes, but they did look class. And I think as long as David De Gea has his head screwed on and avoids any Roy Keane comments, I'm sure he will end up being okay. And it's interesting that I feel bad a little bit for Sheffield United because this is their third game in a row that's away from home.
They've had a lot of games, Sheffield United, haven't they already?
Yeah, but it's none at Bramall Lane yet, which is interesting. I hadn't actually noticed that until now. The third game in a row away, which obviously it's debatable whether away form and home form even matters anymore. But I think not going back to your home in a time like then playing it at home ground might play with you a little bit. I'm going to go for a 2-0. 2-0. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, boring, but
No,
Gonna happen.
I am going to agree with you. I think Man United will play sensibly. I don't think they'll come out with this like attack. I think they'll move the ball nicely and create opportunities, and they'll get the goals that they deserve from those opportunities. Obviously, we talked about Pogba and Fernandes linking up, and that is a dangerous pairing, which worries me for the future. But seeing it now towards the end of the season is always excited to see. Sheffield United have struggled. Obviously, Dean Henderson in goal as well. Obviously, actually a Man United loanee.
Oh, does that mean he can play?
I don't know. I don't know if he'll be
Oh,
playing or not. I don't know if he'll be
that's a good
playing or
point.
not because there's talk of his contract and sort of is he going to extend to the end of the season or is he just going to go back
Yeah,
to Man United? I think he said he wants a Man United number one if he's going to stay at
yeah.
Man
I
United.
think he said that as well, but
So
I can't remember if that is this type of because obviously in some loans, if you go to the club and you play your parent club, then you can't
That
play against
that
them.
that will
I'm
be
not sure actually.
if Henderson's not in goal for Sheffield United, then that might really scupper them even more. Um,
Mm,
and
mm.
I think I'm gonna say that they'll sneak a goal at the end, but I'm going to 3-1 to Man United.
3-1. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Newcastle versus Aston Villa. Um. Right.
Obviously,
Well.
Newcastle already have had a really impressive performance already. We've seen.
Yeah.
Will they repeat it?
They. Will they repeat it? I think. I mean, Aston Villa. I mean, they really need a result soon. They're
Hmm.
certainly within the next one or two games because I mean they're a club that I'd like to see personally stay in the Prem because I think they're a good club. They're a Premier League standard club. Yeah, I don't. Newcastle this season they've been really odd. They've never really put
Mm.
together a significant run of result, or they've never really gone on a terrible run, which has left them in trouble. They've always sort of been around that, sort of
Mm.
15 to 10 mark,
Mm.
mid-table. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and there's not really much thought behind it. But I think Aston Villa will turn up more than they have in the last couple of games. I think Grealish will try and rally the troops and produce one of his stand-up performances, which he does. But also Aston Villa's defense is still as shaky as it has ever been this
Yeah,
season. I mean, they've conceded more goals than Norwich, for goodness sake, and
yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's
very
saying
true.
something. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go for a 1-1.
Fair result, I think. I think Aston Villa
Yeah.
have been poor. They haven't quite hit the gears yet.
No.
Newcastle, obviously, Joe Linton's hit maybe has a peak of confidence after scoring that goal. But we never know. You never know
No.
with him. Um, Bruce looks like he's kind of getting the rhythm of Newcastle. Obviously, it's difficult to say after just one game,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which was against a Sheffield United side, which is kind of a bit lackluster at the moment anyway. But I think they could come out with the same sort of energy that they showed in that game. Aston Villa, though, are fighting for survival. They do need something, and a game against Newcastle is a game for that opportunity. Yeah, it's a game where you can kind of go on paper they're probably about even,
Yeah.
really. So yeah, I'm going to go 1-1 draw as well. I think it's going to be
Mm.
scrappy, messy. Newcastle probably have majority of the chances, but I think they won't do much with those chances. So 1-1 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Norwich
Moving on,
Everton.
Norwich Everton. Interesting.
Um.
Um, I think Everton are in a position to go on and win this. I think
I
Norwich have
think.
Norwich have
Oh,
not done well. They've come back with the same
yeah.
crap
I thought I
performances.
thought Norwich were going to come back fired up, and I
Mm,
I think I can't remember exactly what I predicted last time, but I thought it was going to be either a draw or a Norwich win.
mm,
Ended up getting smashed by Southampton, who were in rubbish form um, prior to lockdown.
mm,
Look like I think you can only, and I think Everton, as we said, obviously it was scrappy against Liverpool, but you can't you can't discredit the work that they obviously did and put
mm.
in for that result to happen. Arguably should have won it, as we already
I think they
touched
played
upon.
reasonably well. I think they played
Yeah,
reasonably well. To be honest,
yeah. I mean, if you
it
if
was
you if you
boring,
keep
but
if
it
you
was
keep
alright.
Liverpool to a draw, then you can't really ever been having a poor game, can you?
Mm.
So I'm gonna say 3-1 Everton. Yeah, 3-1 Everton. Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison will be too much for Norwich's defence, I reckon. And
Well, that was actually interesting watching that Liverpool game because Richarlison was getting a bit annoyed towards the end because I think
he was,
he was sort of desperate for Everton to sort of sneak that goal that they probably deserved, rightfully deserved, and their frustration sort of kicked in. If he can use that frustration and apply it to actually goal scoring, and Calvert-Lewin looked quite quick as well and really raring to go as well. Can never turn down an English striker. I think Everton may have a bit more power and a bit more tactical ability to deal with Norwich. I was like you. I was hoping Norwich would come out and we sort of see how they were at the very start of the season with Buki and everything. But they look weak. They look tired. They look done. They're destined to be another they'll be a championship side again. And I think Everton will get their goals on the score sheet and take this one 2-0.
It is. You can't really argue with it, can you? Like,
no.
Okay, so let's move on to Wolverhampton Wanderers versus AFC Bournemouth. What are you thinking?
Wolves were impressive. I have to say they were good against West Ham. This is a similar sort of game. West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth, West Ham are in obviously similar situation. Both teams looked poor. West Ham and Bournemouth, that is. And obviously Bournemouth need to get out of the relegation zone, but they looked poor. They looked against Crystal Palace. They looked lackluster. They looked Crystal Palace walked all over them. Really, I thought, and Bournemouth had no answers for anything. Obviously, beautiful free kick from Milivojevic, but yeah, Bournemouth had no answers. They were at home as well, and now they got to go up to Wolves Stadium, and I think Wolves with Jimenez and Doherty and the like, they've been impressed all season. They will want Traore as well. They will want this Champions League spot, or at least fifth. They want it, and they are definitely. I'm looking at Wolves going, they could probably slip into fourth place, and I wouldn't even really question it.
What a story that would be!
It would be incredible. I think Wolves are going to be far too much for Bournemouth. I'm actually going to go for a big win here. I think Wolves are going to win 4-0.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because I've always backed Wolves and look, as I say, Traore coming off the bench. I genuinely don't think there could be a better super sub than that. With half an hour left, your defenders start to tire, and then you've got the strongest, quickest winger in the Premier League coming off and just putting you left and right.
Yeah.
Wolves, they've never really been the team to sort of blow teams away this season so far. But I agree with you that this could be the time that they do it. Bournemouth looked awful against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace just were playing around them like they were a school team. Obviously, and if you saw Crystal Palace's second goal, it was it was a really lovely goal, and it was a really great pass and move and lovely finishing, etc. But it was so easy for them to play around. If Crystal Palace can do that, what are Wolves going to do to them at Molineux at Wolves? Yeah. So absolutely. I'm going to go one less than you. I'm going to go 3-0, but it's really not looking good for Bournemouth in terms of their Premier League.
I think Bournemouth are more likely to drop off into 19th, and Aston Villa are more likely to sort of gain points than Bournemouth are at the moment. I am really, really worried for Bournemouth because I like them in the Premier League, but they really aren't turning up, and
I can't see them really turning this around.
They look like a team that I don't want to say it, but deserve to go down at this point if they keep playing the way they're playing. I think Wolves will walk all over them. Next game then, Liverpool Crystal Palace. Normally a historical game. This one normally has its goals in it and controversy.
Well, the historic Crystanbul from a few years ago when the last 12 minutes weren't exactly ideal for Liverpool fans. Look, I think obviously you can't just look at Liverpool's last performance against Everton and expect them to be the same. I think Klopp would have been fuming with how that went. Because all it does is they want to win the title as soon as possible, don't they? And set as many records as possible, etc., etc. Although we can't, whilst how to say it, whilst like going on that off that same page, if you're saying you can't look at Liverpool, when they're playing badly, you have to look at Crystal Palace when in their last result against Bournemouth, and when they're playing well, they looked as poor as Bournemouth were. Crystal Palace looked brilliant. Like they were passing the ball around really nicely, very strong. They played the management of the game once going 2-0 up was exemplary. It's Arsenal should take note. Just saying, no digs there, but they should. That was exactly how to do it. I'm gonna go. I mean, it all depends on Liverpool's team selection as well, because who knows if Robertson's going to be back, if Salah's going to start, etc. I'm going to go for a 2-1, but an entertaining game, and Palace put in a good account for themselves.
Yeah, I think Crystal Palace will want to continue that run. They are in the European fight now, and they'll go and they'll want to keep adding to that. With that said, I think Liverpool will really kick up the gears in this game. I think they would have seen. Well, they would have taken note from the Everton game and gone.
Yeah,
it wasn't our best performance. It was a bit tiresome. It was a bit like we don't really care anymore. Come on, lads, let's just wrap this up and get it done for our fans. Let's secure it. Let's have it said on Premier League, Liverpool champions. Let's get it done. Let's get it in the bag. And I think that's what they'll do. But Crystal Palace, like you say, I think they'll put up a fight. They're not going to let it go easy. I always think Crystal Palace are a better team when they play away anyway. So I'm going to go for a traditional 3-2, but Crystal Palace aren't going to get the winner this time. It's going to be a Liverpool 3-2 win. I think they're going to bring they're going to bring Robertson back. They're going to have get rid of some of the younger players and bring in the experienced front three, and they'll push and get the game done. But it will be a tough one because Crystal Palace won't go down without a fight. That's for sure. For sure. I'm looking forward to this game. Actually, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Burnley Watford.
Watford. So obviously, as a Burnley fan, I watched the City Burnley game yesterday. It was obviously hard watching. Man City when they're in that sort of mood are one of the best teams in Europe, and for a team like Burnley, we obviously weren't on the pace. I think we've got a lot of injuries as well, which I didn't realise didn't help us at all. We two of our main strikers are out. Goodmanson's out, our right mid, Hendrick, etc. We only had. I mean, the worrying thing was we only fielded 7 substitutes when we could have had 9. So that was a shame and a bit concerning in that way. However, we always play better at home traditionally. This is obviously against a far weaker opposition in Watford, who looked okay against Leicester. Like you could make an argument that they looked all right, but nothing that really would worry me. You've got to be optimistic. Apologies. You've got to be optimistic. I'm going to say a 1-0. A 1-0. We're going to do it. Vidra is going to get the winner, and suddenly we're back in the European time.
I think that's a fair prediction actually, mate, because I think it'll be a rough game. I think it'll be a traditional sort of like blockheads. Sort of game.
Deeney's going to be right up for against James Tarkov.
The way I see Watford at the moment is they're the sort of team that's going to be trying to get these 1-point little draws and maybe snatch a victory, just so they just stay hovering just above the relegation zone. They never really get out of the battle. They just kind of just hover there and in 16th, 17th place and not really worried about it, but they know that they have to keep getting these tiny little draws and stuff just to keep them out of reach all the time. And I think that's the same. I think they'll go in with the same sort of mentality against Burnley as well. Burnley, of course, 11th at the moment, 39 points, but very easily in that European race.
All it takes is one win, and then we're back in there for sure.
All it takes is for Burnley to win one game, and you're on the same points as Tottenham and Crystal Palace are right now. depending how their results go. And
That's crazy,
there is
isn't
no
it?
way. There's no way you can count them out. You cannot count any side out all the way down to Southampton. And that's how tight this Premier League table is, and that's why this is exciting, and obviously future games as well. Burnley, though, I know you've talked about injuries and the such, but I think Burnley are a better team than Watford. I think they'll try and get a draw out of you, but I think you'll nick a 1-0 for sure.
I hope so. I'm sorry. It'll be good for the town if we did. For obvious reasons with the playing and stuff. It'll be nice to get back on track in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both saying a nice little classic Burnley style 1-0, are we?
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Right, let's move on to an interesting / controversial one.
Yeah.
Southampton Arsenal. I mean, look, if I'm being honest, I think both of us are thinking the same thing. You got to back Southampton.
Yeah,
in
I think
this game, you can't. Obviously there's logical arguments for saying Arsenal could win. They have got a good attack force on their day when they link up. Aubameyang could have a good day, and you never know. Mustafi and Holding could have a miracle and not concede, not concede a goal. Southampton looked brilliant in the second half against Norwich. Like the link up play, Ings is on fire. I just can't. I can't see how Arsenal are going to keep a clean sheet. I do actually think Mikel Arteta. I think I like Mikel Arteta as a future manager. I think he's got his head screwed on, and obviously he's been taught by the best in Guardiola. So I'm not going to rub too much salt into Arsenal fans' wounds, so to speak, and I'm going to go for a 2-2.
You know what?
I think it's
you know what, mate? We're thinking on the same page today. I was gonna go over 2-2 as well. I think Southampton have the attacking force that can easily penetrate that Arsenal defence, and I think they can definitely get a couple of goals. I think Arsenal, though, they would have seen the past two performances and not be happy at all. How could you be?
Yeah, of course.
And I think they'll want to keep in the European race, even if it's just for Europa League. So they won't give up without fight, but I think it'll be sort of a back and forth sort of game. Arsenal goal, Southampton goal, Arsenal goal, Southampton goal. And I think they'll both really go at it. Southampton will be confident. I know they beat Norwich, who we've already talked about were weak, but they'll be confident that they'll want to keep pushing forward and get a good finish to the season, even if it's just in the top half. So they'll want to do that. Arsenal will be wanting to keep their reputation if it's not scuppered already. So yeah, 2-2, I think. A flurry of goals, but both defenses being exposed for what they are really. So yeah, that's going to be a good game. Talking of good games, probably the biggest games in terms of teams that we've come across so far. Chelsea, Man City.
Yeah, interesting one, this one, because Chelsea looked pretty good against Aston Villa, albeit we know how poor defensively Aston Villa are, so maybe you can't take too much from that. Interesting to see Giroud back in the starting lineup. I just think you can't. When Man City, as they've shown in the last two games, are on song attacking wise, then they are almost unstoppable. And also when their defence is as solid to match. You know, Edison hasn't had a shot on goal to face in his first two games.
Well, that another frightening statistic.
Single shot on goal.
Another frightening statistic is Chelsea have played one less game than Manchester City, but Manchester City have conceded less goals.
Oh gosh.
That's what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
you're dealing with Man City have come back running out of the blocks, which we thought they probably would do. I think.
Yeah.
And they've been incredibly impressive. They will want to keep Liverpool waiting. They will want to.
Yeah, of course.
They will, although they know they're kind of out of the chase. They want to keep pushing them down and going. You can't have it yet. You can't get the title yet. We're going to keep our second place. We're going to secure it, and we're going to make sure no one can catch up with us. And we're going to absolutely wreck any teams that stand in our way. And I think, although they won't thrash Chelsea are a young squad who will want to keep Champions League football, It will be a good game. It will be a fun game to watch. But I think Man City have just that tiny bit edge. It's 2-1. 2-1.
I'm going 3-1. I think you're right. It'll be a good game. It was a good game. I think was it 2-1 or 3-1 when they faced earlier in the season? I can't remember, but I'm going along those same lines. It'll be a good game. Both teams showing what they're worth and showing what they can do, but ultimately the experience. That's the big point as well, isn't it? The experience of Man City's squad might just carry them through. Okay, so let's move on to a bit of a West Mids derby in Wolves versus Aston Villa. I mean, obviously these games depend obviously as well on how they've done in the last couple as well. Like it's.
There's a little bit of an overlap, but to do it properly, we need to do it sort of weekly, so we don't get like overrun with the influx of games. But Aston Villa Wolves, I think it would depend what Aston Villa take out of the Newcastle game. I think if they have a right performance, I think they'll feel okay going into this game. Wolves, obviously, we've already mentioned on pushing forward. And I just think whoever's got the bigger energy and the bigger mentality on the day, honestly, I think this could be a game where Wolves sort of settle down a bit. Maybe they're not as vicious and they're not so ferocious in their attacks, and they're sort of. And I think the manager will be wanting to do that as well. We'll just slow down the pace a little bit so we don't lose focus of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that will allow Aston Villa to sort of a little bit more space to play around. But I think it will. I think I'm going to go. Wolves are going to nick a 1-0. I reckon.
Yeah, interesting. It's. Yeah, as I say, because I think Villa will get a point at Newcastle. But and also I want to back Wolves. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go 2-1 Wolves. I think Wolves are conceded, but again, they have too much left. I'm really rooting for Wolves because they play brilliant football, and to have a team like that, possibly. Also, we're again forgetting the hearing that Man City have recently had. I don't think the verdict has been broadcast yet, but if that does stay in place, fifth could still be up for grabs as a Champions League space, and Wolves have a real possibility of getting into that. So,
even if they're fighting for fourth spot, which I think they should be, I think everyone down to Crystal Palace are kind of doing that at the moment. I think forgetting about Tottenham for a moment, if you want me to go which side do I want to finish fourth, I'm going to put Wolves there over Chelsea and Man United every single day of the week. They thoroughly deserve it. They're a strong side. They've got a side with brilliant chemistry. It's basically the Portuguese national side, to be honest. But they've got brilliant chemistry. The manager is doing a fantastic job, and I think they should push forward. And I think that they'll take Aston Villa slowly apart. So they just nick a win, but they will play. They will play their game and they'll make sure they pick up the points. Moving on, we're in the last 3 games now. So last 3 games of June. So we can move on next week and talk about the games coming up in July as we come towards the end of the season. But Watford versus Southampton, what would have been regarded a relegation battle game probably earlier in the season, isn't so much now. Southampton seem pretty safe in where they are. So Watford have more to play for, would you say?
Huge, yeah. It's all games to the bottom, or from about 19th to 15th, are huge for all those 5 teams. I think this is the type of game that Watford will get up for it. It's a similar-ish game to Leicester, obviously with arguably a weaker opposition. And I'm actually going to back Watford to go and nick it 1-0. I don't think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I think Nigel Pearson is an expert at slowing games down, etc., and not allowing teams to get in their flow. And I think I've got to back him. Yeah, I've got to back a 1-0 Watford, and they're at home as well, so that could play a part.
Yeah, I think Southampton would have picked up points in the early games this weekend. Obviously, we're feeling confident we're going into this game, but they know they're safe. They know that they haven't really got a lot to play for. Obviously, they'll be looking at. they'll be looking at Europe, kind of going maybe, but they'll sort of know that there's too many teams in their way. And I think Watford will bunker down and not let Ings any space or Redmond to sort of move around, and Watford will be looking to pick up that 1-0 win. But again, like I've already said, Watford are trying to get these little results to sort of stay hovering above. I think it's going to be a 0-0.
0-0, yeah. It hasn't got a high scoring game lasted over, has it? Unfortunately. So, okay, so that's a 1-0 for me, 0-0 for you. Crystal Palace at home to Burnley, my team again. Tricky one to call again, because obviously it depends on if Crystal Palace look great at Liverpool, then I wouldn't be so confident. Obviously, it depends how we play at home to Watford. All things being equal, though, and if the game was going to be played this afternoon, I'm going to back us and call it a 1-1. The only problem is Crystal Palace are a bit of a bogey team for us, and I don't know why. Ever since we've come up, we just can't get results against them. Hopefully, lockdown changes that pattern, but it's just it seems to be something about them that we just can't get over. So I'm going to go for a 1-1. What are you thinking?
Well, traditionally, whenever I see Crystal Palace playing at home, I normally bet against them because for some reason, Selhurst Park, they just don't like it, even though it's their stadium. Obviously, fans aren't in there now. Maybe that might be a different thing. But if I stick with that sort of thought process, Crystal Palace were impressive in their first game. I reckon they'll give Liverpool a good fight. But they'll know they have the points to sort of just finish in a comfortable position. So equal sides, really, I would say on paper. So I'm gonna go 1-0 Burnley win though.
Come on, love it.
I think.
Right, let's quickly motor on. But I've got 1% left, so let's quickly motor on to Brighton versus Man United.
Man United, the final game. The final game of our predictions this week.
I'm going to go 2-0 Man United. It's just happening. Fernandes, Pogba again, linking up to Rashford.
I think Brighton will admit that they're safe by now. That they will be ready and raring to go, and Man United will have free reins of the pitch, and they will be winning 2-0.
Perfect. There we go. That has been a really fun podcast to film. Obviously, Premier League is back, so we've got a bit of a routine going now of looking at some fixtures and talking about results, etc. Really exciting times. We're buzzing it's back. We've had a great time filming this. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got this far, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate it all. Zach, any final thoughts?
No, just enjoy the football this week. That's your only order.
Right, I've been Alex the A. I've been with Zach the
Zed,
and we will see you next week.
Bye bye.